Is it Magda's fault? What's happening?
It's not Magda's fault.
Hi, everybody. This is Al. I'm here in Philadelphia. It's a beautiful day, a little warmer than one would want, thinking about it being November, but it's nice. Right, Sophia? Nice.
Yeah.
It's very nice. Are we a medium-specific, medium-constrained, medium-identified community? The medium being poetry? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, some people come for the poetry, or they all come for the poetry, I guess. But what they come for is different from what they get. I think what they get is a community of bright, thoughtful people who like to read and share their ideas. That's what we are. Anyway, I'm just warming us up for the Final Words webcast. We'll say things like that on Monday at noon, Philly time. Please join us for Final Words. We're going to take a lot of calls that day. We're going to enable all the participants, TAs, and folks, anybody who comes here in person. You know, even Zach and Chris, Final Words at the end of the symposium mode. So please tune in Monday. I have a couple of other announcements. I would urge everybody to continue to comment on those who have completed assignment number 4. Please do that. It's very easy to find. SLOPO announcements. We have some SLOPO courses that Lainey is keeping secret. She will not reveal it to anybody so far. People have been hammering at you. Lainey, tell us. But we will announce that all at once. Am I correct?
Sounds good.
Thanks. And I want to introduce Erica Baum, or reintroduce Erica Baum, who's there in the Zoom.
Yay.
Everybody loves Erica Baum, and I think Erica Baum loves ModPo. Yes, Erica? Definitely. And a long-time participant, and of course, wonderful artist, and is what Erica Baum contributes to week 10, a poem-specific, medium-specific thing, an art? No, not at all. Medium specificity is not Erica Baum's middle name. I also want to be cool if you medium specific was your middle name. And I also want to introduce Magda. Magda is here. Magda, can we get Magda on the screen? Magda Andrews-Hoke. Magda has joined us. She's working with Chris and Zach. She's learning all kinds of things. You have a mic back there, any chance? Yeah. Magda, say hello.
Hello.
Everybody in ModPo land, you're going to be seeing lots of Magda over the weeks and the months and the years. We are so happy you're here, Magda.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. Kate and Lainey are back from being a week away from us, but very much in the poetry community that was gathered to mourn and miss Keith Waldrop. Lainey, do you have a word or two about what that experience was like?
It was overwhelmingly beautiful gathering of thoughtful people who loved and adored Rosemary and Keith. It was fabulous. I'm hoping the recordings will be available. I know it was all streamed on Zoom, so hopefully that will all be available.
Kate, did you want to add anything to that?
I concur. And Lainey delivered a really wonderful remembrance of Keith. It was beautiful, and it was a gathering of poets of a certain age and time that, I don't know, can't be replicated.
Yeah.
And Kate was stunning in one of Keith Waldrop's plays.
You performed a part.
She was amazing.
Not surprising, but that's great. All right, I'm going to tell you the phone number. I'm going to assign some folks here to follow the YouTube chat and the forum thread. And then I want to ask Zach to put on the screen for everybody a look at modpo.org. But first, 610-616-3208. That's the number. Chris is standing by. He gets very lonely if you don't call. He actually likes the calls. He has chit-chat. He makes friends. 610-616-3208. If you want to Skype in order to save, hassle or money or both, because you're calling from afar, It's ModPo Pen on Skype. ModPo Pen, 2 N's in pen. I would like to ask Sophia if you will do the YouTube chat. Thank you.
No problem.
And Dave, will you do the forum thread, the special thread? Okay. All right. So now before we get started on favorite poems of week 10, because there's so many favorites, so many great poems, let's ask Zach to put up modpo.org for us. We want to urge everyone. Here we are at the end. Oh, that's nice. Don't click anywhere yet, Zach. This is what you'll see when you go to modpo.org. We are not abandoning Coursera. We are duplicating the materials. We're making it actually much, much, much easier to search all the ModPo materials, which have grown. Chris, how many items at this point? Do you know any? 2,000 something? So everybody thinks their first year, they think, there are 102 poems or 85 poems or whatever. That's the main syllabus, and it's actually more now. There are 2,000 plus more ModPo items than there are Dickinson poems. Probably not.
That's
actually. Probably around the same. Anyway, there's a relation there. So modpo.org has been set up because if you ever notice going to ModPo Plus on Coursera, and the best you could do is think to do Control F in order to find some string of characters. Let's say you want to look up Erica Baum. You do Control F and type B-A-U-M and you'll find it, mostly, unless there's like Rosenbaum and, all the Baums. And you'll finally get to Erica. And that is not a 2023 sophisticated way of searching ModPo. So that's what we built. So what you're seeing now is except for Twitter that seems to have punked out on us. It says, nothing to see here yet. Ha ha, X. Anyway, aside from that, it's a perfect thing. And Zach, I'll ask you now to click. So what we have in the middle here, and you can scroll down again, these are announcements and other information that I post. But really, and there's a lot here. But really, the reason we want you to go to modpo.org is there is a link at the top banner called Explore ModPo, or if you prefer, you can go to the far right and Database will do the same. Okay, Explore ModPo. So for a second, we just want to show you this. All right, so what you can do is you can put a poem in at the top window. You can put a poet in, right? Or you can put a category in, and below that, categories are a little, I don't know, Lainey, we did our best.
We tried.
The categories are hard. Don't blame us for the categories. Okay, then you have below that the syllabi. So you've got ModPo main syllabus, you've got ModPo Plus, you've got the Teaching Resource Center, TRC, and you've got the CCCR, which stands for Community Collaborative Close Readings. Those are videos made by the people out there. So and on the right side, you have weeks. So let's say you're interested in week 10. You click week 10, and in a minute, the machine will load everything up more or less in the order that you see it in ModPo, starting with the main ModPo syllabus. And there's Erica Baum. Now scroll way down, Zach, and you'll see. Let's go forward. There's a lot of stuff. Let's go forward to like number 4 or 5. Okay. By the time you get to number 4, we are now in ModPo Plus. Because look at that picture of Jaap Blanc. Notice that.
What?
Yeah, that's Jaap. What the president will say and do. So what you've got there is week 10. However, if you go back to your searches, and you can reset it. We'll just show them how to reset. You just hit the red button. And now let's say you want only the ModPo Plus for week 10. So you click in ModPo Plus, wait a second. Then week 10, and now all you have is ModPo Plus. So if you are interested, I'd really like to do ModPo Plus, this might be a better way to go, because what you've got, if you click on, let's click on Al Philreese and Erica Baum discuss card catalogs. That's pretty good. Okay. So now you have two options. You can click on Coursera, which is the material in Coursera, or you can go to YouTube. So one of the things you may not realize is that so many of our things are not just in the Coursera site, but they're in YouTube, they're on our media server. And what we've done here, look at this. Maybe not. Look at that. I think this was a night when Erica was our featured guest, which has happened over the years. And this was a clip from that. Yeah. Go back, Zach, please, because I want to wrap up and get started here. So you notice that this individual page gives you a lot of information. It gives you the poem name, it gives you the featured artist, and if it's a discussion, it will list all the participants. So let's say you wanted to click on Erica Baum as a participant. Look at all that. That's really cool. So Erica, who's been a friend of ModPo for quite a while, this is not when Erica is the featured artist. This is when Erica is actually participating in our conversations. How's that? Okay, Zach, go back one more time to the search. So what we'd like you to do is consider forming your own Slowpo season groups. And what we're going to do is we're going to just pick one. I'm going to ask Sophia to do some picking. Let's say you're interested in name a poet that you,
From week 10?
no, any poet.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Carolyn Bergvall.
Okay, so put in Bergvall as poet, as author. What is the category called? Artist. Okay, let's say you want to do, that's all we have for Caroline? No, we have more. So let's say you wanted to get a few ModPo friends together and just do Caroline Bergvall stuff in ModPo. You've got the syllabus right here. And at the very top, Zach, do we get to see the URL? No, we don't. Okay, this is a web browser, so you would be able, so you have a URL that is consistent, permanent. And that URL you can share with your friends or on social media, and that will always, ever be only the Caroline Bergvall material. To do something else, let's reset, please. This will be the last one, I promise. Let's say you want to do a category. Let's say the Dickinsonian. Is there Dickinsonian? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, watch this, guys. So, Lainey, what is the result showing here?
A lot. I mean, the lineage of Dickinson that moves throughout all the weeks of ModPo.
And it does or doesn't include week 1 when Dickinson herself appears?
I'm not seeing
No.
it. No.
You and I put the tags in, but we wouldn't say a Dickinson poem is Dickinsonian. Or
that would be too obvious.
That would be so meta. So what you have here is everything that Lainey and I deemed to be Dickinsonian in one way or other. And now you can put together a bunch of friends and spend weeks. How many screens are there, Zach? Is it 5 or beyond? 5. It's 5.
7.
No, 7, man. 7.
Look, there's Kate.
There's Kate. So I guess we decided that Kate was Dickinsonian that day.
Yeah, definitely.
So what you've got here is 7 screens. You've got a whole
There's
semester.
Ray. Look at all that Ray.
Ray Armantrout is Dickinsonian.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Zach. You can close that down. We're going to go around and get favorite poems. Let me just repeat the obvious. ModPo.org. Thanks to Chris and Zach in particular, also Lainey and Sophia and others who worked on it. But Zach and Chris in particular, this was a major project. And I want to thank Christopher Foreman. Chris Foreman, a long-time ModPo community member, for helping us with the funding of this. This is a very special project, and we urge everyone in the ModPo community to start using modpo.org. We will always maintain the Coursera syllabus. It has its own charms, sort of. But modpo.org is fully charming. Okay, let's go around for favorite poems this week, and then we'll let Erica Baum, who is our special guest, decide which one we should talk about first. All right, let's go with Max and Sophia on deck.
Yeah, I'm going to shout out Rosemary Waldrop's shorter American Memory of the Declaration of Independence, which, in addition to being really distilling, I think, the theme for this week, is also just an evergreen poem in terms of with every news cycle or presidential administration or whatever's going on in the United States, this poem always has something to reveal about some sort of fundamental absurdity of the myth of the American nation state. So
thanks, Zach.
Definitely.
Did I call you Zach? Thanks, Max. Max, I have Zach on the brain here. What is N+7, and why is that relevant to what Rosemary is doing with politics?
Sure. Well, the N plus procedure is when you replace nouns or other categories of words with another word in the dictionary that's n amount of words down. So if it's n plus 7, then you take, hold and you replace it with the word that's 7 words down in your chosen dictionary, which is holler. And here in this case in particular, what it does is it really calls out the form of political rhetoric and its essential substancelessness, I suppose. Right. The way that nouns can be sort of swapped, interchanged, and the message or the sort of the emotional appeal of the message remains the same.
Great. Beautiful. Thank you, Max. Sophia's up, and on deck will be CJ Prince, who's on the phone. So, CJ, if you can hear me, get ready to tell us what your favorite Week 10 poem is. I'm sure you had another question, but we're going to deflect that a little bit and ask you for a favorite poem. Okay, so we're going to go to Sophia, followed by CJ.
Okay. Well, this isn't just because she's joined us today, but that's a great perk. I have to go with Erica Baum's card catalog. I just think it's enticing. I think it's archival. I think it's interesting to look at. And honestly, I confronted it for the first time when I was 18 years old, and it changed my perception of what a poem could look like and who had access to found poetry. And I just think it's like endlessly interesting. Wow.
Erica, aside from blushing, do you have anything to say in response to Sophia?
I wasn't expecting that, but thank you. I should be expecting something, but I wasn't.
You should expect it. You're such a leading light of, it's a funny phrase, a leading light of Week 10, and we really revere what you've done, and you also point us in the direction of other media, and defining yourself as essentially trained as a photographer, as a poet. Yes, we say. And if it widened Sophia DeRosa's horizons, I'm all in favor of it. Not that she needs widening.
I did.
That didn't come out.
I
You did at the time,
yeah.
Yes, okay. CJ Prince is on the line. CJ, can you hear me?
Hello, Al. Good
Hi.
morning. I'm happy to hear you on my phone.
Oh, you're on the phone. We miss you. When are we going to see you next? Maybe up in Montreal. Would you come?
No, I'm in. If you went to Vancouver, BC, but you've already been there.
We have. I know.
I'm in Bellingham, Washington.
Yeah, you're in Bellingham. Okay. Anyway, I'm sure you had a question or comment, but what we'd really like from you, aside from that, is a favorite poem of Week 10. You got one?
Well, I don't know if it's a favorite. I think it's disturbing.
Yeah.
So it got my attention. It's Eunoia by Christian Bach.
Eunoia, yeah. And why do you choose that one, and what's disturbing?
I chose it because that was the last one we talked about in an office hour. And my biggest breakthrough, this is my 4th year with you all, and each year I learned so much more. And this year I learned that I have to go to office hours. And next year I want to do like all of them. I have no notion how I'll work the time out.
Nice.
But office hours, we go so deep.
Yes.
And each one is so unique unto the person who's guiding it.
Right.
That I just feel blessed by the wisdom.
Oh, that's great. I mean, we're all beaming here because the office hours are, they've developed into, other than if face-to-face meetups that people organize, and of course webcast, but we can't really go deep in the webcast because there's so much to cover and so many people. Clearly the office hours are the gem of the format of ModPo, clearly, and you just affirmed that. Thank you, CJ. It's good to hear your voice, and I hope you'll return for year 5 next year.
Oh, absolutely,
Great.
no question.
Okay, all right. Take care.
Thank
Lots
you
of
for
love.
talking to me,
All
Al.
right.
I think you're. Bye-bye.
Bye. She was about to compliment me and got cut off. I think you're... Allie, can you complete that sentence? I think you're...
Extraordinary.
Yeah, right. Okay, where were we? We had CJ. Oh, Let's go to Lainey and then Jason for favorite poems.
I'm going to say it's so tempting to pick Erica, but I'm going to save my Erica praise for, we're going to get to talk more.
Yes.
So I'm going to choose Carolyn Bergvall's Via. And I just want to quote ModPo person Ryan Will, who wrote about it. What specifically stands out most is that to me, this piece acts as a stand-in for an exemplar of what this class is actually asking us to do, much like the 47 individuals who attempted to interpret Dante in a new way. I feel like we are asked throughout this course to do something similar. We are given a set of pre-existing words, and we then are asked through our understanding to reinterpret them in an explanatory manner for others to take in.
Wow. May I have that?
What's that? Can you have it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so great.
There's more. I mean,
there's lots more. I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
That's so great. Thank you. And of course, Via is also a general favorite this week because it is this comment here is meta-pedagogical. That's the classic meta-pedagogical situation. We have a poem, and the poem teaches us how to teach or to learn. Very cool. Jason, followed by JS.
Let's see. I'm tempted to go with Erica Baum as well, and I will give in to my temptation, and I will say the instance of the dog ear here, which are among my favorite works of anyone, and
nice.
I love the way, like in some of the chance poetry we see, like here we have like the raw object, and we can see the paper and can see the crease, and so it's it's like a relief image, like it kind of comes off the page or the screen. And this particular one that we have, I just think is so juicy, and it's all its parentheses and the phrase "a draining of triumphs and indecision," and I just love it.
That's great. I have a feeling we're going to talk more about dog ear as we go along. Let's go to JS, followed by Dave.
Yes. My favorite poem of the week is also the Carolyn Bergvall Via. And like Lainey, I also pulled a quote. So, I think that there is something to be said about how the poem itself invites us to quote. But I just love the Brian Reed essay as well. And a couple lines in particular just really spoke to, I think, what's so moving about the poem. In other words, she is continually reasserting the fact that the world is always joined in media res, in the middle of things. The divinely ordained right way forward has been lost, but it will always remain so and ever has been. And I just really love those lines as a summary of what the poem does.
That's great. JS, not to put you on the spot, but when Caroline Bergvall was here, did you happen to get to see her at the Writers' House? Or
no, I didn't.
Yeah, she was amazing. Yeah. It was really terrific. What an amazing person. Okay, thank you. We're going to go to Dave, followed by Kate.
I'd like to pick something from ModPo Plus by Rod Smith called "Find the Job That's Right for You."
I like that. Can you read a few lines?
I love Rod.
Sure. It's called "Find the Job That's Right for You." 3, part-time presenter, sports work. 4, part-time program presenter, science theaters. 23, part-time gallery attendant. 143, occasional outreach presenter. 195, occasional art handler. 203, full-time assistant curator of education.
So what's significant about what Rod is doing there for you, Dave?
Well, I love that it's a found work. It's taken from what looks like to be a list of job openings. And the way it's presented, you really focus on these listings and how it seems like there's so much hedging in it, like occasional outreach presenter, part-time this, occasional art handler. It's like it gives you the commentary built into the actual substance of the thing itself. And it also suggests this failure to really give importance to anything art related. Any profession that's in the art world is like part-time or occasional or assistant. So there's a lot going on.
That's really great. Somebody out there, some enterprising essay writer should write an essay comparing that poem with Laureen Niedeker's poet's work, Grandfather Advised Me. The relationship is complicated because I think Laureen wasn't interested in work having to do with art so much as some jobs that she picked up that were part-time and full-time in order to get a few dollars. And then she's, of course, playing with the idea that actually her work is right there at that desk. The relationship between the economic eras of the Niedeker poem and of the Rod Smith poem, where we have an unsupported, unfunded world of art and therefore a whole bunch of underemployed art-related people. We'd love that. Before we turn to Kate, Sophia, would you tell us what's going on in the chat? And Dave, will you take a look at the thread also?
Yeah, so in response to your initial question where you said, is ModPo about poems?
Wait, did I say it that way?
No, I'm paraphrasing. But a lot of people said...
You're doing more than paraphrasing, but okay.
A lot of people said that they come back to ModPo for the people and the synthesis of the poetry and the people, which I thought was really lovely.
That's nice.
And then we have some people chiming in about what their favorite poem of this week is. We have a lot of folks saying how mesmerized they were by the recordings of Carolyn Bergvall because, I mean, she has that just absolutely rich,
almost
amazing voice.
Almost unplaceable accent, English accent.
And she just reads amazingly. And then we have some people talking about the shorter declaration and using the N+7 for non-US related documents and how that changes things, but also using the N+7 in that way is just as interesting. A lot of good conversation going on.
It's very lively. Yeah. Someday we ought to figure out, Chris and Zach, how to get all of us enabled so that we can concentrate on the program, but also see the chat without interrupting our screens. I don't know. There's got to be. We have what we call a spitballing dinner coming up of the team in December sometime. We'll go to Park, the quasi-French or pseudo-faux French place that we like. And we'll get Chris to eat some raw stuff, see if that works. And I just called you out, a non-raw guy. But no, you have eaten, you've had a bite of my steak tartare, yeah. With a quail egg, not a Yale egg, quail egg top. What am I saying?
I don't know, Al.
What?
I have the haggis too in Scotland.
Do you have a mic, or are you talking without a mic? Can people hear what you just said?
Not that it's raw, but I just wanted to
haggis
say
is pretty raw.
I also had the haggis in Scotland, so I'm moving up in the world with
that's
my
disgusting.
experience.
Even I wouldn't eat the haggis. Okay, where were we? What was I talking about?
That was your idea.
Someone was sharing their favorite
Okay.
poems.
Yeah.
Dave, what what do we have there in the thread?
I love the expression of Chris, the description of Chris as a non-raw guy.
Okay, let's drop that.
There's a couple posts in the forum. One by Janet P. who says, I would like to know if Erica Baum has a particular reason for having this thing in sharper focus than this land, which is from card catalogs, obviously. It would be interesting to hear the TA's various interpretations of one of these intriguing photographs.
Oh, that's great. Erica, did you hear the comment well enough to respond now?
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that in that whole series, I'm using a view camera. And what's very distinctive about a view camera is that you make decisions and you can choose focus in a way that doesn't happen on, say, an iPhone, which is something I use all the time as well for photos. And so by selecting something to focus and leaving something out of focus, I think I'm creating an order to the way we might see the words, so that you would say this thing, this land, and as if this land is commenting on this thing, or this thing is, anyway, it kind of sets up a relationship between the words that's another kind of guide into looking at them.
Yeah.
And again, I always say that there's no one way to look at the words, but I think the focus brings our attention in a certain way.
That's lovely. And thanks to whoever posted the question, and thanks, Dave. One follow-up, Erica, and then we're going to turn to Kate, and then whoever's on the phone with another favorite poem. You said rightly, of course, describing, I think correctly, the experience of apprehending your work by readers and lookers, that you do some stuff, but then there are many ways to approach it, many ways to see. Yeah. So I guess my question is kind of a softball, but I'm really interested in the topic, which is, how does it feel as an artist to so deliberately, as part of the structure of the making of the work, so deliberately to enable lots of different readings? Dog ear is a classic example of that. You don't even know how to read it. There's no set way to read it. A card catalog also. Do you want to comment on that? Because there are a lot of groovy people from about arguably 1922 or 23 or 1955 or 1973 or whatever. There's a lot of groovy poets who say, who call for the, in the phrase of Lynn Hinginian, the rejection of closure, but they're still putting stuff on the page that you read in order, and you are breaking that. So I'd love for you to comment on that whole question, please.
Well, if I take it as a visual question, I would think of, say, abstract painting, and how your eye tracks what you're looking at, but there's no rule as to how your eye makes that relationship between what you're standing in front of and what you take in. So I guess I'm translating that into a medium where I'm presenting words, but I'm also sort of asking you to engage with those words the way you might engage with a visual field. At the same time, it's hard to explain, but for me, when I look at, say, something completely abstract, I do have a way in which it makes sense to me, and the experience is meaningful. And so I'm kind of granting the viewer the same opportunity with the words. And so you can track it the way you want, and then you can organize those words. And then but I'm making decisions as to which words are going to be there.
Yes,
so
of course.
That's the part where there's a given.
Right.
But then because it's a visual experience, it's taking from the way we look at, say, abstract art.
So the constraint is, in the case of dog ear, a page. There are words on a page, and there are also a lot of words not on that page, but we are focusing on that page. So within that constraint, one has the freedom to see whatever you want to see. And that is, of course, classic for the poems of this week in ModPo. Thank you. We're going to come back to you for sure. Kate, favorite poem, and then we'll go to the phone.
I'm still basking in the warmth of time spent with Lainey Brown. So I'm going to go with her daily sonnets from ModPo Plus. And I love how playful they are. They undercut the seriousness of a classical sonnet, but they also reclaim the sonnet form for the women and children who were once used by it without really being included in it. It's a lot about dailiness and mothering and parenting small children. We also have a N+7 or an N+ something poem in here in the Dawn sonnet. So resonance with Rosemary Waldrop.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have in front of you one of the daily sonnets that is a cut off or shortened sonnet? A fractional sonnet? Would you read one of those?
Well, here's 2/14 sonnet. This undressing at security checkpoints would never have gone over with the Victorians.
I love that one. That is a really great one. Lainey, before we turn to Denny, who's on the phone, can I ask you about this? It's called 2/14 sonnet. Why is it not called 1/7 sonnet?
Because it's a couplet.
Yeah, and 14th is a resonant of the lines of the sonnet. So 1/7 would be for the 7th grade algebra student, but 2/14 is for people who understand the tradition of sonnet. I just love that. 2/14.
It's awkward. Like undressing at the airport is awkward.
Yeah.
And uncomfortable. Thank you, Kate.
That's really marvelous. We have Denny on the line. Denny is usually in Seattle. I imagine he's still there. Denny, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I absolutely can, and we all can. How are you, Denny?
It's good.
Me? It's good to hear your voice.
I'm very good. Thanks. Yeah.
Great.
Excellent.
Great. Can you? Are you willing to?
I want. Thanks.
We have a little bit of a delay.
Am I willing to?
Are you willing to give us a favorite poem from week 10?
Yes. I don't. It's not actually a favorite poem because there's so many poems in week 10 that it's really impossible. And but I just want to call attention to Jordan Abel because it's kind of like more like a Northwest thing.
Yeah,
and like Northwest things are kind of on my mind right now.
Yeah, up your alley. Can you?
So another one, yeah, like also Fred Waugh for that matter, and some of the other Canadian poets who are out on the West Coast, but also even East Coasters like Mel Bachner with all his paintings and I don't know. There's just lots of great stuff.
You really know the course, Denny.
Well, it's going to take me a while to go through 10, the plus version, to re-go through it because there's so much stuff there, and there's a lot of media stuff that I haven't checked out. So you can't know the course too well. I have a little bit of an understanding.
Let me just provide some context, Denny. Since we have such a delay, I'm just going to ask you to hang up and listen to my next comment off the phone. Does that sound okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Sure.
Great. So
thanks and thanks
for
everybody
everything.
for being there and for all the work you do.
Yeah. Thank you, Denny, and all the work you do. So, Denny, for context, Denny Stern, is Nicholas? He appears as Nicholas Stern, I think, mostly in the site. So it's a bit of confusion. But Denny has been with us for some years, and is really focused on everything that's going on in ModPo. We met him when we were out in Seattle and Vancouver. I think did he come all the way up to Vancouver? And he recently was in Kyoto, and he took some photos of Sid Corman's coffee shop. And he's got some great photos of a poet that Sid was working with back in the 70s. And just Denny is one of the great citizens of ModPo. So, and has also suggested Jordan Abel and Fred Waugh and others. And there really is we're proud of the Canadian sampler that is in week 10 of ModPo Plus. So this consists of many of the poems that we have that we've talked about in videos during our Montreal trip and again in our Vancouver trip. Okay, so we're going to turn to Erica K, and then Allie for favorite poems.
Hi. I think that I would have to pick the Rosemary Waldrop Shorter American Memory poem too. And I would be remiss if I also didn't mention Erica Baum's Dog Years. And the thing that they seem to both be doing that's of excitement and interest for me is reorienting the way that one approaches reading. So there's a way in which, as Erica was just saying, with Dog Year, you're constantly kind of navigating how to read the text. And in the act of rereading, you're kind of learning new things, which is something that I appreciate a lot in any kind of work. And then in the Waldrop, the use of the N+7 feels particularly charged because it completely transforms a foundational American document into something quite different. And I'm going to be teaching that poem next week. And part of why I love teaching it so much is because of the way in which it's at once familiar and not. And it takes, it often takes students a while to figure out what's actually happening and what the constraint is, and then why the constraint is, and what kind of new sense, to use a word from Joan Retallack, the poem is requiring the reader to make.
Erica, can you say, Erica Kaufman, can you say what shorter memory means in that context?
Oh. That's a tough one, Al. I hadn't actually thought much about it.
Well, I'll prompt you if you want. Short memory. When we have a certain cultural or political amnesia in this country, in any country, we say, Americans have a short memory, which is meant as a criticism of, forgetting, denying, and repressing bad things that have happened. Sacco and Vanzetti in the 1920s. Well, we have a short memory about that anti-immigrant thing, and then we go through it again. And the other thing is that according to Rosemary, the source is an American history textbook from the 1930s, which meant to be like, hey kids, you don't need all that long textbook shit. Why don't you read this? We'll condense it. And I think Rosemary took her cue from the gall of this textbook that she found. And anyway, I don't know. Your thoughts on this, Erica, on the whole question of memory?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the things that's so interesting to me, again, which is the way in which things can simultaneously be like, this is super familiar, I know it, but then you actually don't know it and you don't know what it says. And that's part of what the N+7 procedure does, is that it lengthens memory, so to speak. And that poem is part of a chapbook that includes procedural investigations into a number of different foundational documents, and they're all equally fabulous because it really pushes you to grapple with the question of history and, the question of what is a foundational document and how much do we actually know the texts that are so-called world or country or what have you is actually built upon. And that textbook is crazy. I looked at it years ago because I was kind of obsessed with these poems.
Who are the students you're going to teach this to? Are they Bard undergraduates or yes? Okay. Would they ever consent to be filmed?
I can ask them when I see them. I'm going to have to leave the webcast early today because I have to go do that.
Well, if they'd be willing,
I'll ask them.
If they'd be willing, then somebody could just get out a decent, later version of an iPhone or any kind of smartphone and film it, and then we could include it in CCCR because I think it's really interesting the way you're going to have to teach that poem. But anyway, okay, we're going to come back to basic documents, the Pledge of Allegiance, in a few minutes. Lainey's going to lead us in a conversation about that. And after Allie gives a favorite, I'm going to turn us back toward Erica Baum, and I've got a little kind of an activity or game for us to focus on what Erica's doing with her work. So stay tuned for that. Allie, favorite?
Well, I also love dog ear, but I'm going to choose Nasser Hussein's Sky Writings. And I think for a similar reason that Erica was just talking about, the way that it defamiliarizes reading, and in this case, on the level of granular word. And I also just think it's a great week 10 set of poems, or a great week 10 project, because it feels like a big hug around the course. From Walt Whitman to Stein to Christian Bach. So it's got that going for it too.
Erica, why do you pair Nasser's piece with Waldrop?
Because it's the same. In my mind, it's the same defamiliarizing the familiar.
Yeah.
So, like what happens when, you're not doing an M+7, but you're gathering these airport codes and seeing what happens if one actually constructs words out of them. And then, I love the illustrations in the book that have these different kinds of maps.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I do this stuff, the goal is always to kind of have students think a bit more about, like the activeness of language, particularly when you're composing a poem, and what it means to engage in these experiments where you're acting upon text that already exists.
Yeah.
What that could lead to.
My thought in response to what you're saying here is that if you take some Week 10 poets who are doing versions of constraint-based writing or systematic derangement or conceptualism, whatever you want to call it, and you put them together, you can actually start seeing a lineage that goes more toward the political. So you have eunoia, which is, I would consider an apolitical, like a pure poem. It's Oulipian in its purity. It's not meant, well, maybe that's meant as a criticism, but it's arid. It's an amazing performance, but it's arid, ethically arid. And what Nasser and Jordan are doing are politicizing the process. In the case of Jordan Abel, he's, of course, erasing stuff based on essentially a racist or anti-indigenous thought by erasing an anthropologist's set of assumptions about indigenous materials in Canada, Western Canada. And in Nasser's case, of course, as a person who has the name Nasser Hussein, who always gets delayed at airports just because of the name, never mind his Canadian English passport, he is necessarily taking a potentially arid form, airport codes, writing about Walt Whitman from airport codes, but it is always already political because of the context. So conceptualism is coming out the other side in geopolitics, which is just a totally fascinating thing. Okay, here's the game. We're going to play an Erica Baum game. So I'm going to call on 4 of us to ask a question, any question of Erica, all right? And I'm going to ask Erica to listen to all 4. This is like spinning plates, so good luck. Listen to all 4 questions. They can be any kind of questions. And then I'm going to give, we're all going to give Erica the floor to as our special guest to say whatever she wants to in response to these, I assume, fairly large questions. So it's going to be Max, Sophia, JS, and Kate. You've got the complete license, Max, to ask Erica Baum a question. It could be a big one. Maybe it should be a big one. Max,
I'm going to go for an off-the-wall one, if that's okay. Which is to, gosh, this will just be really off the wall, which is to expound on the dogness of the dog ear as a, I think I was maybe a little bit inspired by seeing Erica Kaufman's dog in the...
Not to mention Dave's dogs that have been playing on the floor the whole time.
And also Pep as well. Yeah. We have some good dog cameos today in the here in the Zoom. But Erica, I want to ask you about the animality of the dog ear, if I may. Just and maybe if you have any thoughts on that. Why dog ear? Why not a cat ear? Why not any other animal ear?
All right,
it's a big question, and I warned you it was going to be a...
No, I love that, and I can't wait. Poor Erica's got to listen. Don't answer that yet, Erica. You've got to listen to all 4.
I'm chomping at the bit.
And your response has to be a synthesis or melange of everything that you're thinking about in response. Okay, thanks, Max. That was great. All right, Sophia's next with JS on deck.
Okay, this is a tall task. I'm stuck on something Allie said. She said on the level of like the granular word. So that's making me consider scale. And I'm curious about the relationship to like a granular word as opposed to everything that a photograph can capture. I'm curious about the relationship between like the scale of what a photograph can capture and what a single word can capture, and how you rectify those differences or expand on those differences or use them, and how that influences when you like make a photo poem.
Wonderful. Love that. Okay. So next is JS, followed by Kate.
Yeah, so I also have a question about dog ears. We talked a little bit about how there are so many ways to read these poems, these images. Maybe they can't really be misread. There's just ways to unfold and read them. But I am curious whether in the process of making the dog ears, it is possible to make a mistake, and whether there were discards because they're so cleanly folded, the ways that the lines line up, it's really impressive. As someone who has occasionally folded paper, I know how difficult it is sometimes to get those straight lines. And so I'm wondering if there were discards because the lines weren't right, or whether it was possible to make a mistake while creating the dog ears.
Nice. A real material question. And now we turn to Kate for the fourth one, and then Erica has the floor. Kate?
All right, this is a big, vague, not fully formed poet on poet question, but I'm just curious about your daily movement through the world and the way you apprehend and process language, and whether you're distracted by your encounters of language in the world on a daily basis. Because I, as a poet, am often distracted by my noticing of things in the world and putting it into language. My experience of the world fluctuates based on kind of the intensity of my attention day to day. But I'm just curious, because you work with material manifestations of language, just what that looks and feels like in your daily life.
Wonderful. All right, Erica, you have the floor. You can respond to all four. You can respond to one. You can mix them all together. You can forget.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to try to weave them all together and sort of make a narrative that explains my process. And in doing that, I think I can touch on everything everybody asked. So it's starting with the dog and the dog ear. It comes out of this description of saving your place in a book. And it doesn't translate into all different languages. So there are other languages where they say, I think, donkey ear. So it isn't my choosing as a term. It's English language based, but I'm now aware that there are different terms in other languages, and it's meant to recognize a worn out. I guess it's sort of like a dog, maybe as a working dog that's worn out. There's something about it that has to do with using something, and so anyway, there's that kind of process material thing that's the word that describes that choice that I made to make the turn to save my place in a book. And going to the last question, not the last question, sorry, it doesn't matter what order the questions are in. Going to the decision of that fold, I took the idea, my son was doing origami around the time. He was in middle school, he was doing a lot of origami, so I was thinking about folds. I wanted to make a very uniform fold so that it would be kind of transparent and not interfere too much with the reading of the words. So I wanted you to know it was a fold. I wanted it to be visible, but at the same time have an element of transparency and that continuity between each one. There are many, many failures. I always like to talk about that because I fold all the time. And this ties in actually with the last question. I'm always looking at things. I'm always trying to defamiliarize and familiarize my world as I'm walking, as I'm looking at things, and also as I'm reading. If I'm reading for myself to read the words, if I start thinking there's a potential in there to do something with those words other than just get the content that the writer intended, that defamiliarizes it to the point where sometimes it is disorienting. And so it is a kind of toggling between those different states. And in the process of making those folds and reading them and thinking about which ones might live up to being presented and living in the world, there are many, many failures. So I'll make a fold, I'll reread it later, and the percentage of failure is very high. So I think I'm answering all those things.
You did. You're amazing. Snaps for Erica Baum, not just for that wonderful response, but also just for being such a friend of ModPo. Thank you, Erica, and the work is amazing. Maybe during our final words, you'll say a bit about what you're working on now. Okay, so Lainey is going to pose a question after I play a Leanne Brown piece about the pledge, and it'll be Erica Kay and Allie and Jason who respond. Lainey, okay? All right, so it's all yours. I'm just going to play this. And then after that, we're going to do final words. We're going to have, decent amount of time for final words. So I have a kind of a long final word, so I just want to reserve that time for myself. Okay, here we go. Ready? Zach, ready?
I pledge allergy to the flail of the United States of Amigo and to the reputation for which it stands, one national park, under Godmother, indivisible, with lice and kebab for allegiance. I pledge allegory to the flagellant of the United Statistic of Ammunition and to the reproduction for which it stands, one naughtiness, under good, indivisible, with lick and juvenile for anatomy. I pledge allelomorph to the flagelliform of the United State-of-the-Art of American English and to the repudiation for which it stands, one nationalism, under go-getter, indivisible, with library science and juvenile court for alleluia. I pledge...
Lainey?
Oh, we're missing half of it.
No, it's 47 seconds. Did we miss half?
Should I read the rest of it?
Yeah, go ahead.
On my hop, I will try to serve Godmother my coup de grace and to live by the give and take scramble lawn. On my hoodlum, I will try to serve Goose my coupon and to live by the gladioli scrap heap laxative. On my honors of war, I will try to serve go-go dance my country music and to live by the gizmo scowl lawyer. Wow. Okay, so here's our question. To what are poets in this week, week 10, pledging? And to what are they refusing to pledge in their poetics, processes, and writings? So you said Erica, Kate, Allie, and Jason?
No, Erica, Allie, and Jason.
Okay. Erica, which Erica?
K.
Erica K. To what are these poets pledging or not pledging?
I mean, I think that they're pledging to interrogate language and the structures that normatively convey meaning. And I think that the thing that they're not pledging is kind of the opposite of that, which is to kind of accept something as it is without interrogating it or experimenting or putting it through different conceptual mechanisms.
Amazing. That's so well said. I'm tempted to do the owl thing and ask you to repeat it, but...
Why not?
Okay, can you... Sorry. Or just a little bit of it. It's so good.
I mean, there's a way in which the poets this week are taking things that masquerade as being familiar and refusing to accept them as such and placing pressure on language generally so that normative ways of meaning or ways of reading or ways of making meaning are uprooted and one is really pushed to rethink what we might normally think.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Let's go to Allie.
Yeah, that's so hard to follow. I feel like Erica really encapsulated to what they're pledging and to what they are not pledging. I guess I'm just thinking about refusing to accept things the way that they are given, especially because week 10 deals so much with kind of remixing materials that are already in our world. And there's, I think, even in talking about some of the poetry in this week that is apolitical, I do think that there's a political message kind of across the board in refusing to accept things the way that they are given or accept things the way that they appear in and of themselves. And to kind of scramble them or just re-see them as something different.
Wow, I love it. Refusing, remixing, re-seeing. We'll add to Erica's interrogating and refusing. Let's go to Jason.
Yeah, I love what Eric and Ali said, and I'd add that I think pretty much at least all the poets in the main syllabus are dealing with the strange properties of language as always a material thing, which is something that I feel like really comes to the fore here. It's like it's kind of moving around in other weeks, but here we really, I mean, in say dog ear or card catalog, we're looking at, material like either typewritten or print material, because language, I think, previously is thought of from being originally like the word of God to something, ethereal and of the mind. But in order for language to exist, it has to be externalized out of the body and turned into something first made of breath and voice, like we see with Tracy Morris, where she's really drawing attention to the physicality of expression and making words and breaking that down. And then in all of them, like in Unoya, we're dealing with just the bizarre alphabetic nature of our own taken for granted, what words are made of.
Fantastic. That physicality is striking me in what you're saying, like the alphabet as a thing, and then the poetry in and of the body, moving out of the body, but then it's also making visible that connection to the body as opposed to just intellect. So there's this movement that's really interesting. Thank you all.
Yeah, it's Tracy Morris sometimes performs, and she won't. When somebody shouts out a suggestion, do that poem, she will often say, "No, I don't take requests." And then in the middle of a performance of a poem, she'll do something such as tap her sternum just out of habit, and suddenly the register of her voice, the physicality of what she does, which is remarkable, changes, and it reminds her of another poem. And so what she does is she basically contorts her throat, larynx, tongue, teeth area as a way of prompting rather than an intellectual choice of what poem to read next, right? So her body is telling her what she wants to do. Which is, Jaap Blanc is exactly the same way. A sound poet, Edwin Torres, does the same thing. These are great sound poets. All right, we have a generous amount of time for final words. This is our 10th webcast, and there are 11. The other one is final words, where we won't be talking about the poetry substantively, but we would love for everybody to take a turn, including, of course, Erica Baum. And before we do that, I want to ask Sophia to look and tell us what's rocking. What's rocking?
Well, the chat kind of descended into a very long conversation about Helen of Troy.
Oh.
Because of
Unoya.
Yeah, because of Unoya and this idea of is Unoya actually apolitical because of this discussion of Helen of Troy and agency, but also lack of agency. Yeah. And so there is a lot going on.
I was wrong in saying it was arid.
I don't know if
maybe that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
I was wrong. Headline, all caps.
So yeah, that's basically what's been going on since you said that.
All right. Come on, guys, get back to the topic. I'm teasing. Have fun.
Well, and there's
Do
also
what
a
you
lot
want.
of praise for Laura Lippman's books because someone was gifted one of her books. So.
Yes, Laura is a novelist and a ModPoer now. Okay, final thoughts. We're going to start with Max, followed by Sophia. Max, final thought.
Yeah, just on this last point about whether eunoia can or should be political or whatever. I mean, I think that's sort of what's interesting about this week is you see these, you have poets who have and works that have a clear or we might want to say a sort of clear agenda, right? I mean, the Yacht Blanc, what the president will say and do is probably the best example of that. But then you have these, of course, these works like eunoia, which seem to be, Al, as you said, this kind of like exercise in pure poetry. But there's something about this week too where you see when aesthetics or poetics are pushed to these extremes, to these limits, they also they also disclose some kind of social or political message at the same time. They can't help but do it, right? And that's kind of an interesting place for this course to wind up, right? As we see all of these these experiments in poetics pushing further and further into like what is imagined to be some kind of pure aesthetic realm, some of the time, to see it here and encounter it in the present, right? And to be sort of unable to kind of separate what these works will say and do, right, from the present moment, from the circumstances in which we read them. I also just really want to quickly want to plug the European Time Zone Meetup Group, which is having a meeting on Saturday at 4:00 Central European Time. We will be reading, among other things, Lainey Brown's Daily Sonnets. So,
fun.
Please
Max,
join us.
Will you send me the info and I can put that out in one of my announcements?
Yeah, gladly.
Okay, great. Thank you, Max. That's great. Meetups go on. Make sure you go to the meetup threads, the subforum for meetups, and all the information of all the meetups is there. We're going to go to Sophia and then followed by Erica K., who I think has to go teach soon. So, Sophia?
Well, Erica can go first if she's.
I think Erica's got a minute.
Okay. Well, I'll be quick. I just want to say thank you to Erica Baum for joining this webcast. It's always a treat to hear you speak. I guess I just have a thought about Leanne Brown's pledge. Whenever I return to that work, it makes me think obviously about what the actual Pledge of Allegiance is, and what it makes me say. And when the N+7 disturbs the actual language of the Pledge of Allegiance, I have to think to myself that I don't actually know what the words are unless I chant the whole thing. So it draws my attention to something that is so ingrained in me via like public education in the United States, but I don't actually know what it means because I don't know what any of the words are unless I chant the whole thing.
Can you right now try to pick out a sentence from the middle of the pledge?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I could try. I don't know. Like, I'd have to say the whole thing. It's kind of like the alphabet. Like, if you ask me to pick the letter,
you can't pick a letter from the alphabet? Oh my God! Here, just say LMNOP. Just say that.
Q.
Okay.
Thanks. Wow. So I appreciate N+7 for not only disturbing these structures of words that we're supposed to know, but also making me think about the actual thing, the actual structure. So I think about two things at once, and I just think that's a really fun endeavor and important.
And we all want to say also thank you to Erica Baum, and we will thank you again at the end. So let's go to Erica, followed by Jason.
Yeah, and I want to echo the appreciation of Erica Baum. It's exciting to hear you talk about your process. Al, am I allowed to ask you a question as a final word?
Yeah.
I want to know more about what you were saying before. I think you used the phrase ethically arid as far as some of the works in this week, which I just think is a really interesting phrase and something that sets up some of the juxtapositions that I was talking about last night in my office hours around the buck in particular. So, that phrase kind of has helped me begin to formulate my thinking a bit more clearly, but I'm curious to just hear you say a little more.
Well,
I feel
it'll
like
just be,
I'm saying,
thank
but
you
I'm-
for the question.
You what?
It'll be a brief thing. I think that at the beginning, going back to visual art, conceptualism, and then, when it started to hit the poetry world, probably in the 90s, maybe, as a kind of reaction against language, which was ethically charged, Heginian and Bernstein in particular, very political people, trying to see how non-narrative and non-sequential actually reflected the new left rather than the old left. I mean, it's a very interesting topic. And I think conceptualism was a reaction against that. And when it was a reaction against that, the obvious thing to do is to take the old stance of the pure poet. There's no such thing as a pure poet and pure poetry, and the chat sort of proved it in sort of knowing that I'm wrong about. There's no such thing as a pure poem, but some of the practitioners, Kenneth Goldsmith, sometimes, although he works with cities, and cities are always ethically charged, and Christian Buck and some others, part of their politics, as it were, was to be ethically neutral, to see if art could do that. And I'll just add one more thing about the pure poet. I have a friend who is from Bethlehem, West Bank, a Palestinian, and he thinks of himself as a pure poet. And that's a really hard position for him to be in because of the expectations of what he wants to say. And so pure poetry can be a political response. I don't know that it is in the case of Christian or Kenny, but I think it is in the case of this poet I have in mind. By saying, I just want to write my poems, he's saying something profound about the expectations that we place upon him. Yeah. Thanks for giving me a chance to say that.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you, Erica. Okay, we're going to turn to Jason, followed by Allie.
Okay, so let's see. I was really struck by between Kate and Erica B, the talk about being distracted by noticing things in the world or being, thrown off one's path. And so I just quickly wrote down this phrase, we're not so much distracted by what catches our attention, but I mean, we're distracted by discipline and habit from missing, all that is happening around us. And though I think the works of this week all help us in all sorts of ways, come away kind of, splashing cold water onto our face and feeling, because I find while we're talking, I was glancing at some of the prose poems in ModPo Plus, which are made out of sentences and words and don't announce themselves in any way that is, say, there's no internal distractions within them, but they feel totally different. The reading experience is something totally different, and I feel much more attentive after thinking about all these pieces, and it made me think of an activity, a poem making activity, of just, I don't know how I would rig up a camera to my car, but to drive someplace a familiar route or to walk a familiar route and to just document every single piece of language that one can possibly find on that route, which is like Silliman's Albany, but less internal. But all these words that we're unconsciously processing. And anyway, tomorrow night, my office hours are at 8. Last week we had a lot of fun making things, and tomorrow night we will again make things and talk about all sorts of things.
Thank you, Jason. That's 8 p.m. Philadelphia time, Thursday. And there are others. I'll make sure everybody gets the links to all the office hours. These are the final office hours of 2023. We're going to turn to Allie and then Kate.
Two things are lingering in my mind from this webcast. One is Lainey's amazing question of to what are week 10 poets pledging? And the other is Erica Baum saying there's so much failure. There's so many discards. And it makes me think that like one of the things that week 10 is pledging to is recycling. And the relationship between like recycling and failure, and that like in order to recycle something, there has to be some failure, or there has to be, there's a sense that like nothing, no matter how great, is ever like fully perfect, right? And so I just think that that's really important for this week and generally to keep in mind that like the work is never done. The material is limited, but like it's never fully used. There's like always a way to use it again. There's no such thing as like the end of history. You can like keep going. But that's what I'm thinking about.
Thank you, Allie. That's wonderful. Kate, followed by Erica Baum.
I'm still chewing on Eunoia, and something CJ Prince said in that first call. She said it was disturbing, and she didn't say why she thought that. But chiming with what Al calls aridity, well, I'm interested in my own response to this poem because I so admire its virtuosity, its completism. It's just a remarkable piece of work. And yet reading it feels like tapping a vein and watching all of sense and signification run out of the body of language. It's like I have a passive engagement with it, I guess. And I don't know, it's something I want to think about. Maybe we can think about it tomorrow at my office hour at 11.
11 a.m. Thursday. Let's go and talk about Eunoia. That sounds great. Thank you, Kate. Erica Baum, followed by JS.
Hi, I want to say thank you to all of you for being such a generous and insightful community. And, you know, I've always learned things, and I feel like everybody feels, everybody that participates in ModPo, and you can see how people come year after year as well, you create a space where people feel like they can ask questions, and it takes away the intimidating nature of the subject matter, and that's so important. And I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Erica.
I have so many last thoughts, it's impossible. One quick little thing about the political thing is that it made me think of Oulipo and George Perec and Void, and how that constraint was meant to be a political thing. So, you know, I don't know, I think that's one of those like hot topics that we could just keep raking over the coals and thinking about.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that. I mean, I haven't actually ever finished Void, but I'm, you know, just to add to that. And also I think that with my work, I like to sort of give the possibility that there's a subtext reading to a number of them where there are allusions to, I'm alluding to the world in a sort of a commentary, like in card catalogs, suburban homes, subversive activities, is, you know, things like that are more, some of them are more overt. But then also I like what Ali said, that the idea that the process itself is a kind of political move to you know, defamiliarize and not accept things as they are and try to reposit the world. So those are some thoughts. And then one final thing to say is that there are dog-ear works and card catalog works that are for people who are in the Philadelphia area in a group show at the Philadelphia Art Alliance, which is right off Rittenhouse Square. And it's a show, it's called Les Coles, and there's a lot of other interesting artists who work with language there. Sharka Highland, Anson Kenny, Mangelos, I'm probably forgetting somebody. Anyway, it's up till November 18th. And so if anybody's in the area and wants to stop by.
Fabulous. Philadelphia Art Alliance, Rittenhouse, till the 18th. Thank you for plugging that. Appreciate that. Okay, we're going to turn to JS, followed by Lainey, then me.
Yeah, so in discussing the poems of this week, a lot of words have come up: refusing, remixing, reseeing, recycling. And one word I wanted to add to the mix is redirecting or redirection. And this is maybe to think about language a little bit, still as materiality or in a material incarnation, but also language in its medial, energetic state. I see a lot of the poets as redirecting redirecting intentions for language. For instance, the Waldrop, redirecting the pledge from pledging to America to, all of the array of other things that the poets are pledging to, as well as redirecting, certain transparent systems. And I think the entire metaphor of redirection first came up because I was just staring at the Nasser Hussain maps and the idea of all of these different pathways that these airport, abbreviations lead to, and the sort of impossible flights really that they can take. And so this kind of redirection of a very transparent system, a very functional system, into a different kind of meaning system that draws these impossible paths, as well as redirecting attention to the little places that poetry can emerge, as with, Erica Baum's photographs. I would love to also revisit this conversation in my office hours, which are tomorrow, Thursday at 10 a.m. as well.
Thank you, JS. Lainey, these have been the best final words of the season. Everybody's really been so thoughtful and interesting. It's great. It's nice to have the extended time. We don't usually leave so much time. Lainey, your final thoughts?
I agree with you, Al. I also want to recommend Erica's show, which I was there at the opening, and it's beautiful, and everyone should rush out and see it. And it's a beautiful building, beautiful show. And I want to thank Erica. And then my final thought is that I so appreciate this week the invitation to radical acts of reading, and it's so resonant and also useful because our world is not, and our lives, I don't believe, are linear, orderly, or present us with only one way to read or proceed.
Therefore, realism is full of shit. Sort of 19th century realism, as if people actually lived lives that way? No. Yeah. Maybe what Stein called a new realism, which is to say non sequitur, parallelistic, and random in its ordering, which is the way our lives are. Okay, I have 4 shout-outs for my final thoughts. Bear with me. I'm very excited about all these. First, Zach, you're going to have to do some attention with video. First, Sally Van Doren. Sally Van Doren is a poet who also creates asemic paintings, or I guess we say asemic, right? Yeah. And so what Sally did is she made poems. She wrote poems that turn out to be mini paintings. These are mine. I got them from her. I bought them from her, and there are 4 of them. There's another one. And these are poems. She thinks of them as poems. There's another one. So I have 4. I have a set of 4. I like this one particularly because I can almost read it. It reminds me of Robert Grenier and some of his weird writing, and a little bit of Erica Baum. And it's just really great. But the cool part is it's a conceptual work. Why? Because what she's done here is she has created a thick canvas on top of issues of Poetry magazine. So there are 4 issues of Poetry. So she took Poetry magazine, which let's just say is very legible, or has been legible, and she created these asemic writings on the back. And one of the problems I haven't figured out how to hang these in my house, because people won't be able to see the back, and I think that's part of the conceptual art. So Sally Van Doren, she has a new book out called Sibilance, and the front cover of that is one of these. And in fact, the front cover of The Difference is Spreading, our book that Anna and I edited, is also an asemic poem by Sally Van Doren. And she's going to be reading here at the Writers' House next Wednesday from her new book, and I'll put a note out about people can watch. All right, shout out number 2, Suzanne Miller. Suzanne, I believe we've shouted out as a rookie before. She's active in the forums. Sometimes, like week 9, she said, I can't listen to this atonal, please deliver me. So she's been really, really fabulous in interrogating every week and trying to get through this thing and figuring it out. And she really, really came over the top this week as she wrote for assignment number 4. She wrote a Bernadette writing experiment, which is take the I out of some famous piece of writing. And what famous piece of writing is got I so at the center of it? Song of I Self, I would say. So here is just an excerpt from Suzanne Miller rewriting Walt Whitman without the I, which is sort of taken everything out of Whitman, and it turns out to be actually communitarian and sweet. It's really amazing. So here it is. Celebrate and sing. And what you shall assume. For every atom belonging as good belongs to you. It's all about you, this thing. Loaf and invite soul, lean and loaf at ease, observing a spear of summer grass. Tongue, it's not Walt, sticking his tongue in your mouth. Pardon me for being so explicit, but that's what's going on in that canto, right? It's not Walt's tongue, it's just tongue. Tongue, every atom of blood formed from this soil, this air, born here of parents, born here from parents the same, and their parents the same, now 37 years old, in perfect health, begin, hoping to cease, not till death. Creeds and schools in abeyance, retiring back a while, sufficed at what they are, but never forgotten. Harbor for good or bad, permit to speak. Not permit me to speak. Permit to speak at every hazard, nature without check of original energy. A shout out to Suzanne Miller for really taking seriously this wonderful assignment. Third of 4 shout outs. This shout out is to Mariam. Mariam Daftari, who is the mom of Ali. Remember Ali calling from San Diego in week 1? And he read from Rumi. Well, his mom has been doing ModPo very seriously for 2 years. And I learned this morning of a project that Mariam Daftari, Ali's mom, has been doing. Inspired by Erica Baum, she went out to Moonlight Beach in San Diego. It's about, they live about, so Ali and Mariam live about 7 miles from the beach. So they went to Moonlight Beach. Now on Moonlight Beach, there's a section where travelers paint words on pebbles and rocks to sort of commemorate their travels or whatever. There's a lot of words on pebbles and rocks. So Mariam went down there and took photographs of each rock with words on it. She then transcribed the words on the large pebbles, transcribed from the photographs, as if it were a painting. And so she created these poems, which she is thinking they're sort of haiku boards, free verse poems, tried form poems. And so the two of them, the son, Ali, and mom, Mariam, are putting together a book. And I wanted to read a couple of these poems, the pebble poems, the dancing variety of pebbles. These are all words that came from the beach. Who asks, who am I? Do you know the way to Z? Neighbors, love, and peace. A smiley face with thick black eyelashes. Panda, pandy, baby, pandu. 2 birds soar above a heart against a turquoise sky. Blue jay over golden sunshine. Sisters holding hands. Urge, be strong. Peach dude, D-O-O-D, peach dude, stay happy. Tai chi, symbol, allow yourself to bloom. 2 flowers, blue and yellow. Red stone, blue blank stone, purple blank rock, love, period. Smiles for smiles. Jesus yesterday, today, and forever. I like this. Schnitzel love. Just be happy. I love you. Love on. Live, laugh. Be happy. Life is good. And that's Mariam Daftari taking a cue from Erica Baum. And finally, a shout out to our friend Martin Porter, who lives in the southwest of the UK, of England, and he had been thinking of coming to meet us up there in Scotland. He wasn't able to make it, but Martin is a regular, and he sent me copies of a collection of poems by New Zealand poets. Martin is not from New Zealand, but he thought that we would enjoy it, and he sent me 3 copies of this. And I'm now going to conclude by reading this handwritten letter, handwritten letter from Martin. He felt that he had to handwrite it in the spirit of ModPo and Week 10. And here is partly what he said, writing me from Wells, England. ModPo has been an important feature of my life, my love and understanding of poetry over the last decade. Please know that your devotion to making it a personal experience is much appreciated. I have chosen to write in my own hand as the ModPo context demands this personal touch and not just the usual connection through the flow of electromagnetic energy. Many thanks for all you do. Please let all those who have been involved in ModPo know they are wonderful. Yours, Martin Porter. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Erica Baum. Thanks to CJ Prince and Denny for calling. Lainey, thank you as always. Max, Sophia, JS, superstar rookie. Kate, as always. Dave had to leave early. Erica's gone off to teach. Allie, Jason, thank you all. We're going to be convening again on Monday at noon Philadelphia time for final words. Please prepare to call us and call in your final words. And everybody think about how you feel about the experience we've had. And thanks to Zach and Chris and Magda for making all this work. Magda, was it fun? Good? Thumbs up? Okay, great. We'll see you all soon. Go to the office hours. Bye-bye.